Gunner states, my 22 rifle keeps jamming up. This is a Marlin Model 60, a semi-automatic 22 rifle. And these are extremely popular, maybe second to only the Ruger 1022. But this customer is having an issue with the gun ejecting. As he shoots, it does not efficiently eject the empty case and tries to load in the new full ammunition cartridge and jams it all up. This issue can be fairly common on these semi-auto 22s. Sometimes it can be caused by a buildup of carbon and other gunk and dirt. Sometimes it's actually other internal damage. As you can see here from the casings, it is happening fairly often. So with this one, we're just going to tear it down, look to see if there's any breakages, clean it up really good, and see if that cures the issue. Gunner states, my Zastava M70 pistol will not go back together. Now, this is a follow-up video from one that we did previously, so if you want to see the initial issue, please go back and watch the first video. But here, we replaced the mangled pin that held the mainspring in place. So you can see the mangled pin, and you can see peeking out just on the side of the grip there, the brand new pin that was manufactured, cut to length, and fit to hold snugly. So now the gun is back together, it is functional, and on its way back out to the customer. Gunner states, the screw on my antique revolver is broken. Now, this is a really cool antique Colt 1848 Baby Dragoon. These are extremely rare, and this one is in particularly great condition for what it is. But the customer does have a broken hammer screw. It was sheared straight in half, and we did get a replacement, but here's where it gets worse. Once installed, the hammer does not operate properly. So this is going back to the gunsmiths for further investigation to see why the action isn't operating properly, and then we're going to blend that screw and make it look a little bit more authentic to age. This one will be really cool when it is all done, and excited to see it functional. Gunner states, my 1911 is not going back together correctly. This is a Smith & Wesson E-Series 5-inch 1911 in 45 ACP, and this customer is having a hard time getting it back together. So he brought it into us, we're taking a look, and almost immediately we can tell that the barrel, where the barrel link is located, is all mangled up and chewed up. And not sure how that happened, but we're pretty sure that this is the culprit, and so we are going to unpin the link, clean up the barrel where that link does engage, and then reinstall. Then we'll make sure that the gun goes back together smoothly after that. Gunner states, the trigger keeps going dead on my 25 semi-automatic pistol. Now, this is a Phoenix Arms Raven. We don't get these in for gunsmithing very much because usually the cost of gunsmithing is going to exceed the value of the gun, but this customer insisted that it had some sentimental value and wants it fixed, so here we are. So this customer says that when he goes shooting, occasionally the trigger will go dead completely. So with just quick inspection, we can see that the trigger bar that engages the action actually comes off its track and doesn't engage the sear when pulling the trigger. So our gunsmiths are going to take a look at this further and see what we can do to get that trigger bar back in place and keep it in place so that the gun does function and strike reliably. Gunner states, the action on my 32 semi-automatic pistol is not working. This is a Kel-Tec P32, one of the original compact pocket pistols that came to market. And this we can see on initial evaluation, as we engage the trigger and the hammer comes to the rear, it kind of just flops over. So turning it over, you can see that the hammer spring is attached to the hammer, but nothing else. So this gun is definitely missing some parts. So it's going back to the gunsmiths to do a complete breakdown inventory of what parts are there and are not there so that we can get some parts ordered and hopefully get this gun put back together and functional. Stay tuned for the follow-up. Gunner states, my new collectible Winchester needs a new loading gate installed. Now, this is a Winchester Model 64. These are a fairly rare model of Winchester, depending on what caliber they come in. And this customer bought one, had it transfer into our shop, but it needs a new loading gate installed. So the customer had provided a new loading gate on arrival. And so this doesn't require any evaluation or investigation. All we're doing is installing the new loading gate. So we'll check back with this when it is complete and ready to go back out to the customer. Gunner states, my World War II M1 carbine was stored in standing water. This is a inland World War II era M1 carbine. This gun does appear to be all original, and this gun got accidentally exposed to standing water and is extremely rusted, and the stock is gross and mildewy and slightly cracked and all sorts of issues. This customer brought this in to look for a complete restoration. We have given the customer a couple options, restoring what's present because the bore of of the barrel action and most of the metal parts are still structurally good, but the pitting on this barrel is not removable. So even on refinish, it will show, but it doesn't have any structural issues whatsoever. Or we can look at complete barrel replacement and parts replacement where needed, which will be a much more expensive restoration and also deplete from the originality of the gun. The customer has chosen to restore what's there. We're confident that we can give this gun as is a pretty awesome makeover, and we are excited to dig in and get started on this one, so stay tuned. Gunner states, my Lyman 54 caliber black powder rifle has accumulated a ton of rust. Now, this is the second video for this gun. It came in with a massive amount of rust on the blued metal finish. Despite what the trolls said in the comments, this is not painted on. As you can see, the remaining pitting is there after the heavy bead blast, but overall, the parts came out pretty good, and we're confident after the dip in the bluing tanks, this gun will look beautiful again. We'll follow up when the gun's completely assembled and finished so we can see the final product. Gunner states, my M1 will not chamber properly. This is a CAI M1 Garand or Garand, whatever way you pronounce it is okay with us. And the gunner states that he has a problem with his gun chambering. Now, our gunsmiths already evaluated this and found that the head spacing is incorrect on this barrel. So we've had this thing for a little while waiting on a pull-through chamber reamer. Finally got the tool in, and this gun is going under the knife to get that chamber corrected so that the rounds load smoothly. So back to the gunsmiths this goes, and we will check back in when the work is complete and the rifle is functioning properly. Gunner states, I want my water-damaged M1 carbine restored. Now, this is the second video in the series for this inland World War II era M1 carbine that has been stored in water. Now, we have it all disassembled and can have a better idea of the extent of the damage on this gun. You can see there's heavy rust, heavy pitting on the metal surfaces, and the stock is gross, mildewy, icky, but we are more encouraged after disassembly because we can see a lot of the rust around the receiver and other metal parts are mostly surface still. The barrel's the worst part, so the trick is getting all of this stripped and ready for sandblasting while maintaining the original markings. So metal parts are heading to the blasting cabinet and the wood is going back to the gunsmith to start stripping down. Gunner states, I want my water-damaged M1 carbine restored. Now, this is the third video in this series with this inland World War II era M1 carbine, and we have disassembled this gun and got initial sandblasting done as well as the initial stock stripping. So you can see it looks a lot cleaner now. We can get a better idea of where the heavy pitting is, and we've inspected to make sure that there's no additional structural issues or breakages on any of the parts, and we are definitely more encouraged about what the final result of this gun will be. So everything is gonna start heading to the refinished tanks, but before that, we're gonna take the pitting on the barrel and buff it out as much as possible to hide the extreme pitting. Also, we don't sandblast the springs because sandblasting thin springs like that can cause weakness. Now, the corrosive nature and process of the bluing tanks will knock all that rust off the springs, so they will be restored just as well. So pretty cool to see it all laid out and ready in its first initial step, and can't wait to see what comes next. Gunner states, my World War II M1 carbine was stored in standing water. This is the next video in the inland M1 carbine series, and the parts for this gun just came out of the Parkerization tanks, and we can get a good look now at how all the metal finishing is coming out. Most of the parts look brand new or close to brand new, aside from the barrel still showing some pitting, which we knew we were not going to completely get rid of, but it does look a lot better. It's a little bit hard with all the oil glare to get a good look at it, but once we get this gun reassembled and back together, we'll get some really detailed videos so you can see exactly how this gun came out. Excited to see the final product, and this one's going to be pretty satisfying to have done. Gunner states, the slide release on my pistol is all messed up. In this video, we're revisiting this Canik TP9. If you remember on the first video, we had a broken slide release spring. We went ahead and we ordered a brand new one. It did come in, and we had to pull a lot of the guts out of this frame, including the takedown bar and a couple other roll pins that holds in the internals to finally get that spring into place. Then we went ahead and returned all the internal frame parts, and now we have a functioning gun and functioning slide release. We've just done final evaluation on this Canik. It looks good to go and is on its way back out to the customer. Gunner states, my revolver is having random resistance when firing. This is video number 2 of the high standard R101 Sentinel. This gun was having problems on rotation. It was hanging up and getting some resistance resistance. Now, we did learn this does not have a spring-loaded ejection rod, so we knew that wasn't the culprit, but internally, the ejection rod does have a pin that was protruding outside of the outer wall, out of position, which was not allowing the ejection rod to function and rotate as needed. So the gunsmiths tore it apart, put that pin back in place on the internal of the ejection rod, and reassembled it, and now we are 100% functional. So this gun is good to go and is headed back out to the customer. Gunner states, my 1911 match barrel is ruined. Now, this is a Kimber Eclipse Target 2. This is an old two-tone gun that was very popular with Kimber back in the day. This customer had a match barrel fit into it, and it looks like it wasn't fit all that well, but that's not the problem. The problem is the barrel's bulged. Looks like we have a deformed barrel. This is oftentimes a result of bad reloads that squib up and cause overpressuring, and we can see that pretty clearly on the outside of the barrel, and even more so when we show you the inside of the barrel. So we ordered a new barrel for this gun, exactly the same as the first one, this CART, K-A-R-T match barrel, and our gunsmiths are going to diligently fit this barrel as perfectly as possible so that this customer can get the performance that he originally expected out of this upgrade. Gunner states, my 1911 is not going back together correctly. Now, here we are back with the Smith & Wesson E-Series 1911-45. This is the follow-up video. If you remember from the first video, the portion of the barrel that holds the link was all marred up. It didn't allow the barrel link and pin to rotate cleanly as necessary. And so as you can see here, we went through, we cleaned that up, recontoured it so everything works smoothly. And now the gun goes back together like butter. Now it has gone through final function check, been reassembled easily, and now it is on its way back out to the customer. Gunner states, my classic shotgun will not disassemble or reassemble properly. This is a Winchester Model 1912, later to be known as just the Model 12, one of the most popular hunting shotguns of all time. And the way this gun disassembles normally is you're going to rotate the magazine tube, pull it out to extent, and then the barrel and mag tube as one unit will rotate off the receiver. Now, this gun in particular, we can get a little bit of rotation on the mag tube, we can get it to pull out, but we can't get the whole assembly to rotate to disconnect from the receiver. Also, when reassembling, the magazine tube rotates into place to lock it down so that the gun can't rotate apart, but it isn't rotating all the way to lock in. So there's a lot of different issues going on with this gun. So we need to assess what is going on so that we can tear it apart, remedy it, get it back together, and get it back out in the field. Gunner states, I need my classic Browning shotgun fully restored. This here is a Browning A5 Sweet 16 gauge semi-automatic shotgun, and this customer is looking to have this gun completely restored. Now, he is opting to do the wood restoration himself, so we are just focusing on the metal components. The values of these have not really shot up in original condition, so to keep them in the family and operating correctly, they are pretty good candidates for restoration. So we are going to work on a full re-bluing of this gun. The finish damage on this gun is kind of unique. It shows some scratching and flaking, which is kind of an odd pattern. What we usually see is standard pitting into a bluing wear finish. We've already sourced 3 missing lock screws on this that are shown here in the video, and it is a solid rib model, which makes the bluing process a little bit easier because we don't have as many cracks and crevices to get into. So we're going to start breaking this thing down and prepping it for the refinish. Should look great when it's done. Gunner states, my World War II M1 carbine needs a full restoration after being left in standing water. This is the final short on the series of the Inland M1 carbine, and it is restored and reassembled, and now we have the full final product to show you. This thing came out gorgeous. As you can see, the wood on this gun has been restored to a very authentic original style look. All the original markings on the stock are still present, and it looks very much as it would have been issued back in the 40s. All the metal parts have been Parkerized, and almost all the metal parts came out fantastic. They look brand new. We knew the barrel was going to be the problem part of this gun, and yes, the pitting does show, but we decided not to sand down the pitting heavily in order to retain the original markings on the barrel. It is a fully restored, functional, shootable gun, and this one should be able to be enjoyed for generations to come. If you want to see all the details of this gun, please subscribe so you can see the long form version of it to be posted here on the channel soon. Gunner states, my my Kel-Tec pocket pistol is completely non-functional. Now, this is the second video for this Kel-Tec P32. If you haven't seen the first video, please go back, check it out. But it was missing some parts on the internals, especially associated with the hammer spring. And as you can see here, those parts have been replaced. So it has the hammer spring retainer, and that has been retained with the solid pin. And now it gives something for that hammer spring to push off of to give the hammer proper function. When this gun was disassembled for the repair, we went ahead and did a full cleaning, including the full upper assembly. Did have quite a bit of dirt and rust in it, and we cleaned all that out so that it could return to service as a reliable carry gun. So now we fully function tested this gun. It is ready to rock and go back out to the customer and be returned to daily carry use.